house and we have public.
Oh, it looks like we might be getting somewhere.
No, I think we're getting closer.
There we go.
So did I get dropped?
Awesome.
I think I got dropped from
There we go. All right. Everybody, please remember to mute your computers and your phones.
Let them see the.
And we're recording.
Recording in progress.
Kill that.
For some reason on mute, but every time I join.
Yeah,
Right.
there's some defaults in there.
We're a little late getting started due to technical difficulties. That said, I think we're all here. Are we ready to call the meeting to order? Yep, all right. We are calling to order the September 6, 2023 Citizens Advisory Committee meeting. May I have roll call, please?
Yeah. Yeah, what's going on? All right, I'm just gonna go in order that I have it here. Will Knight.
Is excused tonight?
Okay. Adrian Kester.
Here.
Twyla Harrington.
Here.
Kevin Minkow.
Here.
And Shelley Reynolds.
Here?
Genevieve Abilene.
That's here.
Woodrow Taylor.
Here.
Terrell. Chris Barney.
Here.
Diane Castillo.
Here.
Victoria Rizzo.
Here.
Rizzo. And Shelby Stephenson.
Here.
Anyone I didn't call?
I think that's all of us.
All right, cool.
Way to go, guys. And we're all here in person. Will doesn't know what he's missing. All right. Do the Pledge of Allegiance. Chris, want to do the honors?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And welcome Counselor Glantz and Paul. All right. Do we have any public comment on non-agenda items?
Do we have one submitted?
I think that's Paul. Paul, do you want us to read or do you want to talk? He's not answering. Oh, there you go.
Shelley, yeah, I just provided it in advance, so I'll read it ahead of time.
Okay. Can't hear Paul. So,
Me?
can you guys hear us okay? Yeah, okay. So we just can't hear you, right? Sandy, could you say something for me?
Yeah, I tried talking and you couldn't
Yeah,
hear.
we can't hear them. So we need to be able to hear public. So close.
Are these working?
They should be. They should be able to hear us.
They can hear us. And they're,
Red is hot.
yeah, red is a hot mic. At the last planning commission meeting, which was a couple of months ago, I was remote and no one could hear me through the Zoom link, so they still haven't gotten it fixed, apparently in a few
sounds like-
months.
Well, I think that it's a good reason for everybody to be here in person.
Right. But definitely somebody should be assigned to getting that fixed.
Yeah. Paul, if I promise to come back to you, can we move on?
Paul, I can hear you if you talk. And I can,
He has to,
Yeah.
he has to take his camera so we can see.
Yeah, he'll have to
Give
take
a
his
thumbs
camera.
up, so,
Well, you can use his icons to give
Oh,
a
yeah.
thumbs up too.
oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's true. I was gonna say, I don't think he ever uses his camera.
He doesn't.
He might not have a camera.
He might not. I think he just got a new computer though, so he might.
Paul speaks, can we hear him?
Paul, can you talk, try saying something?
Yes, I'm here.
Yay! Wonderful. Paul, did you have any public comment tonight?
Nothing to add to what I presented in advance in writing.
Okay, thank you. The narrative that Paul provided in advance in writing, I don't think it went out to all committee members. Is it long? Can it be read into the record?
We could read it, it's a little lengthy, but we'll be okay.
Is there any objection to us having that read into the record, or shall we attach it to the minutes?
I'm fine with
This
just
is
attaching.
Diane. If we're going to comment on it, I'd rather have a time to read and review. If it's just something that's going to be read, saying that Paul submitted this, then personally, I'd be fine with that.
I think, Paul, is that okay with you if we have it read into the record, and if it requires a future agenda item, we'll put it on the agenda next month?
Sure, either way, whatever works for you guys.
Thank you. All right, Nick, if you would go ahead and read it into the agenda.
Yeah, all right. CAC members, I would continue to encourage you to take up the issue of how Troutdale City Council councilor vacancies are filled. As I've referenced in the past, the situation will occur in the November 2024 election, where a midterm councilor could run for mayor, and if elected, would create a councilor vacancy subject to appointment only. I'd suggest charter amendment language similar to what West Lynn uses. West Lynn is also a case study in filing vacancies recently. In the November 2022 election, their midterm mayor was elected to the Oregon House. The sitting council president was appointed to serve as interim mayor. That individual was elected mayor in a special May 2023 election. In August 2023, a citizen was appointed to serve as interim councilor in that vacated council seat. A special election will be held in November 2023 to fill that vacancy through 2024. At that point, the entire council will be fully elected. If you recall, Troutdale faced a similar situation in November 2022 when Mayor Lauer ran for Oregon House. If he had won, a special election would have been required by the city charter to fill that vacancy. However, if a midterm councilor were elected mayor, that councilor's seat would be filled by appointment. My fundamental question is, why should mayoral vacancies require an election, while councilor vacancies only require appointment by the council, or vice versa? Councilor vacancies filled by appointment can be for nearly 2 years. Troutdale has what is described as a weak mayor system. The mayor has no veto power, and their single vote carries no more weight than any other council member. Submitted by Paul Wilcox, Troutdale, meeting date 9/6/23.
Perfect, thank you. And we'll discuss whether or not to make that an agenda item for next month. Anyone?
Open for discussion? Yeah, I think it ought to be an agenda item. I think it's
Okay.
worthy of discussion.
All right,
I would say, considering that he's brought it up multiple times, we might as well have a discussion to see whether or not we want to do anything with it.
okay.
I don't know what we could do, but I guess we'll see.
Do we need to have more specificity about whether we want to go forward with Plan A or Plan B, or should we have discussion and recommendations? How does that work?
So because this has not been assigned to us by the city council, I think and please correct me if I'm wrong, guys, I think that we can voice concerns as citizens to the city council if we have a concern. But because this hasn't been given to us by the city council to discuss and resolve, I don't know if we as a committee can actually provide a written recommendation to city council. Yes.
I wonder though if then maybe our goal should be to discuss it, and if a concern comes up, maybe we could write a letter to council saying that, hey, we have a concern about this, and then if they share the concern, maybe they could assign something to us from there.
Possibly. Possibly.
Good question.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the same issue we discussed and we all agreed that the next step would be to see the cost of a special election? And then we were waiting for that answer to decide, because we've discussed this at multiple meetings, and then at that point to go further. I think that's kind of that's my recollection of last discussion upon this issue.
This is true.
Yes.
Okay.
If we did get that, I think.
You didn't want to discuss the cost next month? I mean, I can do it, it's a long.
It's long. Why don't we, I think with that information, why don't we make this an agenda item for next month? Victoria, if you would bring those numbers with you or post them, email
Or
them to.
maybe I can just email it.
Perfect, that would be great. So everybody can be prepared to address the cost associated with the special election. And we will put this on the agenda for next month. Okay? Is that acceptable, Paul?
Michelle, yeah, that sounds good. I know Victoria did get some figures from Sarah, the city recorder, and there was quite a range of figures because it depends who else is on the ballot and how large the ballot is with other jurisdictions spreading the cost of the election itself.
Okay. Great, and if you could be here next month on Zoom or in person, either one, to contribute to the discussion, we would be happy to hear. Okay?
I'm sure.
All right. Thank you. And now we get to meet our new guys.
Come up to the
Yep, we
hot
got to
seat.
be able to hear you.
Oh, come on up. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us here. My name is Dakota Meyer. I'm the new associate planner here with the city of Troutdale. Myself and Nick started about 3.5 weeks ago here with the city. I'm a small town kid. I grew up in Oregon, just outside of Portland, a small town called Scappoose. And then I'm coming here from Hillsborough, where I spent some time in the planning division there. So welcome, happy to be here. Thank you for having us, and we'll have some questions for you all after Nick goes.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. Hey guys. I'm Nick. I'm the new assistant planner. Started at the same time as Dakota 3-ish weeks ago. I'm coming to you from Roseburg. I was a planner there through the RARE program. It's an AmeriCorps program at the University of Oregon. And then I was in grad school in Milwaukee before that. So happy to be here. Bounce ideas off you, and you guys bounce ideas off us. And we'll see how it goes moving forward.
You're welcome.
There is a topic that I wanted to bring up just to inform everyone. David, the director of the planning division, is no longer with us. So this is our first meeting, and so sorry for the little bit of fumbling. We're still trying to get the hang of it. But did want to update you that if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns regarding that situation, Ray has been, the city manager, has been the one as the point person. But if you have any questions or things you would like from us, we have our contact information. Or give us a call or go ahead and send us an email.
Great, thank you. Do we have any questions for Nick and Dakota? Just a big welcome. We're so happy to have you. We've been without a staff liaison for a little while now, and happy to have some regulars back and supporting our group. Thank you for being here.
You're very welcome.
All right, and now it's your turn.
All right. The main question we have here just said, what are you most interested in? That is a question coming from both Nick and I, as we're still figuring out the role that we have with this committee, is trying to figure out what exactly are you wanting from us to help best you all in your jobs. So that's something that we really are hoping to get out of this first initial meeting, so that way from here we won't be fumbling over everything so much. We'll be able to give you everything ahead of time until we come prepared for you all to make the best out of these meetings.
Wonderful, thank you. Folks?
I'll start.
Great.
In terms of answering what am I most interested in. In terms of communication, I submitted an email after I received the agenda with showing these staff communication, various projects that I'm not familiar with, being brand new on this committee. And I was told that a packet of information related to all of these or some of these was going to be delivered to the House in advance. Nothing arrived at the House. I would like to suggest that whatever the agenda item is, it would really be helpful to get material in advance, and as far in advance as possible, because I much prefer doing homework and getting up to speed on various agenda items so that I can come ready and prepared to ask questions. Much like Diane just said about the issue of the election to filling vacancies and so on, to have that information in advance. So I don't know, I guess we're going to move on to some of these issues. And I'll be sitting here with somewhat of a blank stare without being able to contribute much, because I'm just I'm not familiar with what's going on
better
there.
than the rest of us.
I usually have a blank stare.
Well, I don't like a blank stare, and so anyway, I'd like to avoid that. Let's all get up to speed. I have one other issue in terms of planning. I've never heard of what was a program in Troutdale that could circumvent the same kind of problem they had in Lahaina, where hurricane force winds blew a wildfire out of control and destroyed the city. Well, we can sometimes have level 1 hurricane force winds. We have the threat of wildfires all the time in the gorge, and the question is, what is the plan for PGE to shut off power? What does that mean to the residents of Troutdale? Are their medical devices going to get shut off? I mean, I'd like to add that as an agenda item to some near future discussion.
So I think that some of that's being picked up by public safety.
Yep, peace out.
And there is an emergency planner, I think. I'm not sure who that points under. Is it planning or?
Ray's working with Wood Village and Fairview, and they're getting
Who is?
up-to-date.
Ray,
Yeah.
manager.
And they're getting an up-to-date plan, and I'm sure he'd be willing to come and talk to us about it if we wanted him to.
But some of the questions you have doesn't necessarily fall under the realm of the city's plan. So it would be something that is collaborated with utility, fire, Gresham, and there's some of your questions
state.
definitely were out of scope for just the city, but we should probably start
Yeah,
with the
it's
city
the
and grow.
emergency, it's an emergency plan, and the 3 cities are working together We have one, but it needs updated, so they're all updating it right now. And he told me he could come to the safety, Ray said he'd come and talk to the safety about it if we wanted him to, and I'm sure he probably wouldn't mind coming here, so.
Is it something that everybody would be interested in hearing
I think
at this
so.
meeting, as opposed to going to the public safety meeting?
So, something to think about is there's a group called CERT. It's a community emergency response team, and it's usually ran out of a local fire department. I don't think Gresham or Troutdale has one, but that's generally where that would come down and disperse to the different volunteer groups that would be assisting during emergency. Maybe we can get some traction, work with Ray, figure out where we can best put this before we start, talking about committees and stuff.
I can answer some of that too. If that's okay to talk right now.
Yes, absolutely.
As a counselor, I was assigned to the RDPO, the Regional Disaster Preparedness Organization. And what you're talking about in terms of power shutoff is called a PSPS, Public Safety Power Shutoff. And there's a protocol for how that happens. And it's not in Troutdale's control. There's a whole notification system that goes behind it and all that kind of stuff. And yes, there is a 3-city emergency plan where we would have some tabletop exercises and develop a plan that doesn't rely on the chief of police of Troutdale. That was one of the grants we got from RDPO to put that together. And so far we haven't been able to do much. We're looking to actually hire or contract with someone to be able to work on that. And there's some conversations about whether that should be with a Multnomah County person. But that's kind of the stage we're at right now. We have 3 years to complete that grant, and we're just starting in the first year of it, so.
I just have one more comment. I, in my daytime role, I work in emergency management, and we actually just did a multi-county tabletop exercise around wildfires with the power companies. From a healthcare perspective, we have people reach out and they register with the power companies if they have like dependent oxygen or ventilators, things like that. And so they hopefully would have early notification with those people in the community, so that they could have those backup resources and things in place.
Thank you.
All right, do we have any other? Go ahead.
Diane speaking. I'd like some more time to think about that, because I'm just thinking of, I just need to wrap my head around more of the responses to the question you asked. I'd like to do that another time. But also for now, I really enjoy updates. So it's like what's going on with the property next door, the old city hall, where are we at with the development at the urban renewal site. Can I ask if Marlene Boxler is the head planner at this time, or
She is still working on.
She still is?
Yes, she's still working on that,
Okay.
as the primary liaison to the project, as
Okay.
far as I understand. She gave us a brief rundown when that first week we were here of the project. I could give a brief little update on that if you'd like. But I'll let others.
Okay, sure. So
If you would all like to hear it, I can give a brief.
okay, yeah. So that's I'm on the town center committee. That's a TCAP. So that's interest to me, just to kind of see where it's at, and also follow up as a committee that some of the issues that we thought were important, we don't know where it's at this point. So we had a lot of meetings and created some goals, and then we made a selection of a group that we hoped would encompass the will of the citizens and their desires. And then also we were talking about having public participation as well. So it's just really nice to know where we're at, what decisions have been made. And a lot of the things we were discussing was keeping that small town feel, and we selected who we selected for the size of their buildings and not being too impactful as the like and the flavor of Troutdale and what all the citizens always say they like, which is the small town feel. So it's just important to kind of, I'd like to know as a committee member on this as well, and then also for citizens to get their input, and knowing our table line, where we're at, and at what points they can have some meetings that we can have input.
Yeah, I'll second the communications thing, because I know, I mean, there are some of us, like, I mean, Paul and myself, that seem to like to attend every one of these public meetings that we can get our hands on lately. But for the people who don't, communication from staff as to what is kind of happening at the various layers, just for that extra little bit of communications out to this committee and then to the public at large, through us, as to what is going on in planning, what is going on at council, parks, various other places.
And this is Twyla. I think I would really appreciate us kind of looking back at some of our past agendas and the work that we've done over the last year or two, and getting, like some people said, just updates on those projects, things like that, because we spent a lot of time and discussion and long hours on some, and so it's great. I see a couple on here, but it'd be really nice to kind of circle back to some of those things from past agendas.
Basically, you guys have said everything I would probably agree with too, so.
So as the chairperson, the best way you can help me is with the agenda, making sure I'm notified of who's not going to be here and who's excused. With the agenda, if we have any guest speakers, if you could put them at the top of the agenda instead of the bottom, so that they aren't waiting for us to get through all of our lesser discussions to get to them, and having to wade through all the time and energy that we put into our topics when they're waiting to do a presentation. So putting guest speakers at the top of the agenda, making sure that I'm aware of any guest speakers or guests that will be coming to the meetings is super helpful. And then I usually get here between 6:30 and 7, just so I can touch base with y'all, make sure that we have our equipment running, but also make sure I've gone through the agenda with you and know what I'm looking at and what to expect, and not keeping people here longer than they should be because I don't know what I'm doing. So that's how you can help me.
I think I'll echo what he said, which is that when I saw the agenda, I didn't have any context for the projects. And so it's hard to come and hear about something that you don't really know of. So maybe painting a picture of that, either with communications that come in the packet, which I never got the packet either, but I just think it would be more productive for the group if we actually knew what some of those things are.
And kind of chime in, I mean, I much love paper as much as anybody else, but if we could actually use maybe a link to take the agenda item back to a folder or web page that you guys are referencing, that would be nice too. I think just to kind of, do my homework, and that way I don't have to look with like stare at my face.
All right. Last call, anyone else? All right. So now you have a list, guys.
That's a very great list, thank you all for that. This is exactly what we were looking for. As I said, since we're starting, we're getting a lot of information, and these are all really great points. Some stuff that we weren't totally aware of. So now it was brought to our attention, so we can now help people. So thank you very much.
And just be aware, we all know you're new. It's really okay.
But this is exactly what we were looking for.
We're just so happy you're here. It's really okay.
This will better help us formulate what we send out to you all. So
all right.
that's the next couple projects are just more, they asked us what we we wanted to, and this is just stuff that we know that we're currently working on as we kind of just started. So having a background of what you would like to see given former projects is a great place for us to start to help build the agendas.
Super.
So thank you very much.
You betcha. All right, and you're up next with staff communications.
All right. Nick, I'm gonna take the first one. Yeah. So here's the other thing I noticed that is what we've been working on. So that's what's shaped this list, is just the things that have encompassed our day-to-day. Also, what sparked the question, what are you interested in? We are coming up with a list of what to update you on, and we're, unsure. So that's the whole reason. So upcoming Halstead project. A reason you might not have heard it before or have any context for it. The context is a pre-app. Nothing's been submitted. There's some revisions to work on the plan, but it's a multi-family development. It's going to be 15 units. Let's see, I have an address. 1360 Southwest 257th Ave. It's a kind of an empty parcel. It's pretty unique. There's not a lot of those left in Troutdale. And he's looking to really kind of utilize the density you can build to in that HDR zone. So you're not going to have another single family house in this high density residential zone. So he's looking at it in terms of what can I really do to make the most efficient use of the land. So that's just from a planner perspective, I think kind of exciting. I'm coming from Roseburg where we don't have a lot of that. So it's kind of a unique thing to get used to from developers, which is nice.
What's the cross street? Get a better idea of where it's located? It is
1360 Southwest.
Silly, we can barely hear the speakers.
How's this?
Is that better, Nick?
Better?
Paul?
basically kitty corner from Reynolds High School.
Oh.
Reynolds High School. Okay, thank you.
Better?
Right here. This big thing.
Okay. Okay.
Doing good, Michael.
But yeah, that's the update. We're gonna be most likely seeing it in a couple months as a submitted application. Things will change, right? It's not it's a hard set thing. There's some requirements that they're still not being met, but you can expect to see a 15-ish unit multifamily development coming your way, or not your way, but we can update you on along as we go and kind of figure it out. So that's in the pipeline as far as housing goes.
Is it going to planning? Is that why when you say it's coming forward, will we have to go to the planning commission?
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So if you follow planning, we'll get.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay.
The next one is an update on the code amendment that is currently going to City Council next week, this September 12th. This is something I've been working on. This is a code amendment to update our code to improve readability of the code. Sections specific are the light industrial, general industrial sections of the code, as well as variance language. So what that means is back when the city implemented the housing bill requirements, they updated the code to go from a list style for what's permitted, not permitted, or conditionally permitted, as far as uses go, to a table style. So we are bringing that to City Council along with updates from Planning Commission to update the variance language in the code to change the variance threshold from no less than 10, no more than 30% change to no less than 10, no more than 15. So it's kind of a significant drop, but through research that Nick had done, it's actually brings us into more of a conformance with other cities of comparable size. So that's something that has been in the works for several months, and it just kind of came across my plate. And so we've been working on that to bring it to City Council, and our goal is to get have an adopted ordinance so we can update our code to improve that readability. Along with that is updating a section along within that code is just updating a section to bring us into conformance with Metro goals, as well as some DLCD requirements that were not being met previously in the code.
Who's DLC?
That is the
Department of Land Conservation and Development.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
The conformance of the metro goals and the DL what?
DLCD.
DLCD.
Yes.
Okay, so, these are their goals. A lot of times this happens when we introduce new language into, different documents and such. Are these goals that are mandated, we must follow to get monies, or is optional?
These are mandated goals. So these are the goals that every city that's within Metro has to conform to these goals.
So,
within the Metro boundary.
and within that conformity, can a city select best use and practice and still be still meet the standard?
Yes, and that's what we're doing. There's a threshold that we are meeting, and that's the threshold that we're going for. Nothing over and above, because that's as we work with Metro regularly in the planning realm, and so these are they're not statewide, but they're Metro-wide goals for all the cities involved. So as long as you meet those minimum thresholds, and they're not goals to try to curb any one thing within the city. They're goals to, I think one of them is to increase public communication within the city. So they're kind of overarching goals that allow the city to figure out how they're going to do that. The specific goals that we're working on are requirements within the industrial zones to go from a conditionally permitted use to a permitted use to increase the value of the properties and increase development and potential for more businesses to come into the city.
Okay, thank you.
Dakota, is this code amendment what the planning commission voted on in early August?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes. So this did go to planning commission in early, I believe it was August 2nd.
right.
So this is that code. We did do an update to this section of it and actually split it apart. There was a section that was thrown into the code, the previous planning commission. My dates are a little rough from reading all the staff reports. But I believe there was code amendment. This is 75, that's supposed to say 13, that was supposed to be an update. 7512 was denied by the planning commission or by city council previously, with the note to come back to the planning commission for changes. So that's what this code is doing. However, they also added a lot of information regarding marijuana and psilocybin. That made this code amendment very convoluted. So after discussions, and we didn't go back, made it very convoluted, and we did not meet the proper state required noticing requirements, which is a ballot measure 56 notice. We did not meet that. So in order to meet that for the marijuana and psilocybin, we have to split it off. That will be its own code amendment coming down the pipeline next. So we're moving forward with just the industrial and variants. We now have met that requirement. We got those notices out last week to all the property owners that will be affected. And then we'll be moving forward with the marijuana psilocybin as its own code amendment right on the heels.
Will that go back to the planning commission?
Yes, that is going back to planning commission on October 11th. That will be a different case file number. That will be 7514. And that will be going to planning commission for review. We're not changing any of the language. We just need, so they've already approved that, but we need to go back to them in order to meet our requirements. And that's something that I push pretty hard to do. And also to clean up this amendment to make it easier to read and to make it more streamlined. It was just getting very, very messy having all the other things thrown in. So splitting it off should make both of these very streamlined, meet all the requirements, and they should be easier to be passed that way.
Thank you.
We don't want to miss anything. The next update, this is something that has come across my desk as well. We're pushing off a little ways, just so we get those other code amendments done first. So this is going to be a code amendment to update the code to come in conformance with the middle housing that has not been done, that was not done previously when middle housing was brought into the city. So they missed the section on expedited land divisions. So this is still under Housing Bill 2021. This section here, so it's SB 458. That is another code amendment that will be coming, that will be more than likely after the first of the year. Once we get these other two big code amendments through, we'll be now going back and working on that. Expedited land divisions is a code amendment to allow a quicker version of a partition. So you're dividing land, it doesn't hold as many constraints to partition, but you still have to meet the base zone standards of that zone that it's in. What that also allows is if you have a duplex and say you want to sell half of the duplex, you can now split the duplex straight down the middle on their own lots. So where they can, those buildings can be right up next to each other. Still technically one structure, but separately owned, separate lots, kind of like a condominium is what it was. Now it's separated off, but will have their own lots. And that's coming down the way.
You called it middle housing?
Middle housing.
What does that mean?
So middle house, it's this was a House Bill 2021 from the state. This was a requirement that all cities over 10,000 population had to implement by July of 2022. Middle housing is basically an infill to take buildable land. Now, not everybody has to do this, but it allows, if you have a very, very large parcel and you're in a single-family residential zone, and you already have a large house on it, there's not a whole lot you can do unless you want to partition it off and then sell that other one or build. This allows you to infill that large section. ADUs.
Is a middle housing?
Yes, ADU is a big one. Cottage clusters is another part of that as well. So this is a subset of that. It's all wrapped in the same bill. It just wasn't added to the code during that code amendment. So that's we're following it back up, updating the code with that language.
Any questions?
All right. And then the last one is, it's the Halsey project. It's called Main Streets on Halsey. This is a project that the city of Troutdale is working with Fairview and Wood Village to improve Halsey Street from 257th, I believe, all the way down the corridor. We had a brief meeting on it. We're still being brought up to speed on this project. It's basically looking at designs that they have. That's where they're at right now, is just potential designs. This won't be actually coming to fruition for quite some time. There's still a lot of legwork that has to go in. The designs we were looking at were different styles of streets, that what Halsey could look like. For parking, treescapes, center lanes, to make it safer. Along with that, we did look at the 257th intersection right here, at potential schematics to how to make that a safer intersection. It's one of the most unsafe intersections in the area as far as crashes go. So in order to make that a little bit more user-friendly for pedestrians as well as traffic. So that's kind of what this Halsey project is wrapping in. Again, this is a collaboration with Troutdale, Fairview, and Wood Village are all working on this together. So it's still quite a ways off. They have a lot of different designs that we looked at, and we still don't have one nailed down, but we kind of they've gone through and helped us, and we selected a couple that look good, but they have a lot more legwork to do before they get to any point of, hey, this is what we're going to go with. And before that happens, it still has to come to the city for our approval. They don't just get to decide. So we're working with a consultant on that.
Will that project come to the planning commission?
Yes,
for
yeah,
review?
that will be a required project to come to planning commission and city council. There will be a number of work sessions on that project before it comes to any sort of vote.
How much of that design and planning is waiting on some sort of definitive word as to what Edgefield is doing?
So that was only part of one meeting so far, but it does sound like they're working with Edgefield. They have a specific style that they would prefer to keep. So working with them to try to find the best possible outcome. It's not owned, the road's not owned by Edgefield.
Right.
So they don't have the definitive say, but it is something that, we're working with all the businesses along along Halsey to try to see what best meets the needs
Right.
for them.
Well, and the other thing that comes to mind is I believe, I'm reasonably certain that Edgefield is planning in the relatively near future some development on the north side of Halsey. So
As far as I heard, yeah.
what they're
working
doing
towards
with that and what sort of timeline that is on, because I know a lot of the half-street improvements many times get pawned off onto the developers, the property owners, as far as what timeline that is on probably is going to impact what sort of timelines that corridor is on, because that is a relatively important and now kind of dead space section of the Halsey corridor.
Mhm. Yeah, I can't speak to that fully, but I do believe that they are trying to work with Edgefield to, not with the designs per se, but if it comes to that, when they do the development, work with them regarding half-street improvements, that way it doesn't get put, we will assist if we go with this, try to work with them and negotiate out the best possible outcome. Now, with that said, the designs we looked at, it won't be the same one design all the way throughout Halsey. It'll change depending on sections. And that's due to, whether there's more foot traffic, bike traffic, things that are going to best assist the pedestrians in that location and make it safer. Areas that need larger turnouts. If there's going to be on-street parking, make sure that you have access to step out and not go right into a bike lane, so we have it off the street but more next to the pedestrian. Things of that nature that they're working out. So it won't all be one solid design, and that's why they're trying to figure out the best possible few, and then work with those business owners and homeowners, landowners, to figure out what the best possible outcome can be for everyone.
Along those lines, I would, however, I encourage, particularly when it comes to bike lanes, a healthy level of coherence and special attention to the transitions, because when you have for things like bikes in particular, the transition from one traffic pattern to another traffic pattern is for the bike lane itself is going to be potentially a dangerous choke point.
Yeah.
And so having, even if it's just for that mode of travel, having a very coherent strategy along the entire corridor, regardless of what happens with the rest of the design, I think would probably be beneficial.
I'd say, based on what we've seen so far, I'd say you wouldn't have much to worry about. Their treatments for bicycle and ped coming up to intersections, I think, is really slick. When they showed some of their cross sections, and they did an intersection redesign, and it was, I don't know if we're gonna go with like which one, so I'm not gonna like elaborate, like apologies, but it was pretty cool. And I think you're gonna like what comes out of it.
Pardon me, but following on with Adrian about the, any changes to, traffic controls along 257 and Halsey, Buxton Historical Highway right here is part and parcel, I think. And it seems like we can make sure that in consideration those safety concerns on 257 and would also need to take into consideration that intersection as well.
Yeah, that definitely. From the designs that we saw, the free design, they had a really cool table drawn up with how they kind of rated each design. And I can't remember every single, it was a very large table. And they kind of had a ranking system for each one. And something that was very high at each of these designs was the bike ped, because they know that that's an issue and they want to continue that. I mean, really, if you look at 257 intersection right here, pedestrian traffic's not as strong as it could be, and that's because it's a dangerous intersection. And especially coming to the downtown, which is so heavily foot traffic, they want to make that a much easier corridor for the ped. Also trying to pull some of that, that way you can have more of a walkability factor without having to cross the dangerous intersection.
Follow-up question also, I'm definitely safety first, but Troutdale has a definite look and feel. And, I don't know where exactly Wood Village starts along this, or the next community to the west. But it does seem like the lion's share of this project is in Troutdale. And I just hope that we continue our look and feel.
Yes, and that's why there's not going to be a single design. They want to really take in each of what each city needs, and then really place these types of designs, and then but also make sure that they're very easy transitioning. You won't notice the transition of design as much. It'll be very smooth, and that's the goal that they have. Again, this is still pretty far down the way. There will be a lot of discussion about it when it comes up. I know we'll be bringing it back here, hopefully with maybe a presentation, when we get to that point. As of right now, we don't have any of those materials. It's just more of, hey, this is what we're thinking. They've been working on this project for about a year, from what I understand. I think that's what they said. I think it was like a year and a half. So they're making headway, but it's still going to be at least 2 years down the way, and that's being pretty generous. So.
Diane, I appreciate that you're saying that not one all plan meets everybody's needs. It's actually been going on for about 7 years. I went to the first town center at somewhere in Wood Village where they're doing presentations to the citizens and going, what do you want? What do you want? And it's morphed a lot since then to where it seems like it was, I hate to say it, but mostly a meet the Metro's desires. And then we have all this public participation. And then my concern is that we're with 3 cities, and when we're 3 cities, then we get outvoted. We could, in this design level that you all are doing. So I'm really hoping that Marley Boxler and you guys have a lot to say. And then Marley gets you up to speed as to, I'm on the Troutdale Historical Society board. And there was a lot of things at the Old Town Center before the New Town Center expressed that they were interested in. And by taking in the input from citizenry, we're saying that our small town feel. A lot of people moved here, we were very windy, a lot of people did not want to move here. And so there's a lot of history that's involved in the people, working man, you know, the people that live here. And I know we have to be in flux and things change and such. My concerns are that when you're talking about Halsey Corridor also, the 4 stories that I'm seeing now in those apartments, that's the first time. I don't know if we have anything else that's 4 stories in the city of Troutdale. To me, that takes away from the small town feel. The Old Town Center was wanting to really do something that created our little historic town, I forget what kind, Hunger Hill is what it's called, why people and businesses and even young business owners were attracted to this area. And where reporters would also say when they came here, they got a respite. They thought that they could, you know, breathe and enjoy the view and something, you know, that was different than some of the other cities and with their traits and characteristics, where this was a place to just kind of rest and just enjoy. So I'm just saying this to y'all because you haven't been here long, and I've been going to council meetings for about 25 years, and we're separate entities, but my husband's been a counselor for 13 years. I love going to meetings, I love participating, that's why I'm on a few committees and such, and a lot of other people always participate in many things. I see Woodrow help out at the Historic Society, did concerts, you know, things to increase history, and, you know, we all work together, you know, but I'm concerned about those things that everybody keeps saying when they come and we have town meetings. They say we don't want to be Portland, and we are not Gresham, and they say that over and over and over again. Marley Boxler has done an amazing job in promoting us and trying to encourage unique crafts businesses and such, and you know, doing a lot of things to promote the town and create just a lot of life within the town and the marketing and things. And I'm just hoping that you guys visit the Historical Society, our museums and stuff, and talk to the people that have been here for a long time. Dave Britma is great. He helped do the arch. You know, there's a lot of people that put heart and soul. Our little old buildings that we still have, yes, Troutdale's burned a couple of times, but there's some things that I'm surprised when I talk to the young business owners that come here, they like the charm of that. So that's even, you know, attracting the younger generation as well too, a place that you could have family or visitors come and just kind of have a relaxing time. And I'm concerned about that. with development in the Misty Middle or whatever, and that it happening on our, just our few blocks in downtown where we have little craftsman style homes and such, and then saying, how many stories can people go up? Where the old town center never wanted that to happen, but we never got to enter into discussion about codes or changing codes or what things look like. So I'm just saying that for me, for Halsey, I'm hoping that we do get to keep our Troutdale look. There's lots of other areas to do some infill that Portland gets created. I just had to go to my daughter's doctor appointment in the Pearl District. Very creative with, encompassing the old with the new. There's interesting ways to do that. But I'm hoping that we retain our corridor history and kind of let Edgefield have fun and do what they do and do best. They just said recently that is their favorite place of all their McMenamins there, and that has a lot of historical value, and it creates a little charm for our city. And so I'm just hoping that we get to, Troutdale gets to be Troutdale.
On that note, Marley is still a part of this project, very strong.
Okay.
So she's definitely on the project. One of the many that she's doing, because she wears many hats, as many know. But she was at the meeting, and she's been a part of it for a long time. So that's someone that she's not stepping away from the project anytime soon. And so as the more I get into this project, that's someone we'll probably be working with, because she has the history behind it, and so she can help navigate as well as help the project move forward in the best possible way.
Okay, great. And sorry, it's long-winded, but I'm trying to kind of give you a little bit of my history, in going to all these meetings for so many years, just kind of, introduce you to a little bit of that stuff. Right?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions about the staff updates? All? Any input?
Just one final note. Agreed with something Kevin was saying earlier, that if you're going to have subject matter on the agenda, you need to provide background information, like on that code amendment, for example. That could have easily been included in a packet material. Just reprint the what was before the planning commission. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me dovetail on that and combine it, connected with what Woodrow said. It doesn't have to be printed. We don't need to cut down a whole bunch more trees for this purpose. Emailing PDFs would be ideal. I'm happy with that.
Great. Thank you.
Did you want a small little snippet on what's going on with the area over there? The
URL.
Yes.
URL.
Thank you.
Yeah.
As I know right now, nothing has changed with the design. Capstone is still the developer. What you see on the website is still the design they're working with. They're currently working with Time Equities, the owner of the strip mall. They're working on negotiation. So that's kind of where it's at right now. They've been working on it for a little bit of time. As far as I understand, it's kind of slow going, but there's been multiple meetings between those two. As far as I understand, the city's kind of taking a step back from those meetings, letting them to negotiate and figure out the best way to move forward with the design that was shown, represented.
Thank you.
Victoria, what's up with the project next door?
I believe that was, I have it written down here.
You're talking about home forward.
Home forward.
Yeah, home forward.
All I have is the little bits that's been here is just an update on, or we've just been kind of told what's going on there as far as development that's going in, and as far as you know as much as I do, I don't know anything else on it. I'm sorry.
I don't know when it's starting or anything.
I can add a little bit to that, just based on what has been in front of council. The city council approved a development agreement with Home Forward to allow the process to move forward.
What Home Forward said at that point in time is that they're expecting to start breaking ground sometime late this year, late this fall. But the design is for all, as far as all of the various efforts that have been in front of and out of Planning Commission and in front of council and out of council, that was all wrapped up by the development agreement that was approved by City Council.
When we do get a application for that, we will definitely let you know, write that down and have a start next to it.
Thank you.
Stupid question.
No such thing.
Are there any other parcels of property within Troutdale that are owned by the county that they can come in and do whatever the hell they want to do?
I do not know that at this time. Still getting a feel for what available land, quote unquote, available land is in the city. I know the city has several locations that are deemed for future projects. And that's about the extent of my knowledge of this.
Well done. All right. Moving on to committee member comments. Victoria?
Nothing else?
Diane?
Very nice to meet both of you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Adrian?
Just a couple things that notes that I had in my head that I wanted to kind of stick in the collective ear. Partially related to the progress of the Home Forward project, and now that our summer city events have wrapped up for the season with our last successful First Friday, it is extremely likely that we will not have that lot anymore for overflow parking for next summer. So therefore, we will need, as a city, to think very strongly about how we are going to advertise and sign where to send all of the dozens of people that used to park in there, in that lot, and where they're going to be for future downtown city events. And that's something we should probably start planning out and thinking on sooner rather than later, and certainly well ahead of next summer. Next item that came to mind is Troutdale, in my opinion, is in desperate need of a local farmers market. I would love to see, now that since the one that used to occupy the community college has apparently given up the ghost, it would be nice to somehow encourage a local replacement. Somebody that could come in somewhere, I don't know where, if they could work with the community college again and have it there, I don't really care, but having a local farmers market would be fantastic. And then the other thing, this was a discussion I was having with my wife, is with various relatives that have come and visited us. They want to go walk around our downtown, and to be perfectly honest, very quickly lose interest, because so much of our frontage on downtown is not places that visitors are going to want to visit. I mean, there's very valuable businesses to the community, but there's not a lot for visitors to come in and do and see. And trying to figure out how we can encourage more businesses downtown for people to walk through, look at, buy stuff, etc. And those are my various in-laws have commented on that more than once. So anyway, that's it for me.
Thank you. Twyla?
Yes, well, thank you guys. Welcome. We're excited to have you, and thank you for putting together and getting everything started for us. The only thought that I had is we have heard a lot about Home Forward and kind of where we are with that. What I don't think, and it might be that I missed it or something, is the apartments a little bit further down that are going up. Sometimes I go to work and I swear there's another row of them there. I would love to learn more about that development that's going up there, how many units, kind of what we could expect with traffic impacts, that sort of thing, with that group going in. And also if those developers are going to be doing any improvements to the area, that sort of thing. I don't feel like we've heard much on that project at all, so just would love to hear more.
Shelley? So welcome to you guys. So happy that you're here.
Chris?
That's all I really have to say is welcome and nice to meet you guys.
Welcome. Adrian, let me know if you want to get some traction on that farmer's market. Been doing help with that. I got the diabetes and I'm eating so eating. And then increasing downtown business, I think is what you're referring to as well. One of the things we did in Gilbert was we looked for business licenses, people working businesses out of their homes, and we approached them about taking a home-based business and soliciting them to come down and take up one of our businesses in one downtown areas. So if you want to work on something like that, let me know. I can help you with that too. Is there any rules about us taking the staff out for beers? Is that allowed or no?
You can't have too many city council members, I think, in one room together like that.
I'm new at this, so just let me know.
I don't know if that pertains to committee.
Someone told me it's also growing our tax base too, if I go spend, go spend my money in bandits instead of.
I think because you're not elected officials, that it is agreeable that you can take them for beers. If I'm not mistaken, it's based on elective.
Let's have that on record.
I don't know, my battery died, so are we still recording?
I have to call the boss and make sure she's okay with me taking a pit stop.
All right, Kevin?
Welcome. You guys can welcome me, because I'm new. This is only my second committee appearance after being selected. I hadn't thought about it, but Adrian, you sparked some consideration. I used to be on the Sandy Chamber of Commerce board, and we talked a lot about the downtown center. This was 25 years ago. We talked a lot about what Sandy was going to look like. And I mentioned that it looked like, now this is not Troutdale. It used to be what Troutdale looked like. It was a smile with every other tooth missing, because you had, and in some parts, a little bit of Sandy downtown, you've got some nice spaces, and then you've got a empty lot, and then there's some other thing, then a big empty lot, and that does not pertain now to the downtown Troutdale, but I understand what you're talking about. You're not going to get a lot of tourists coming to Troutdale Vision, but you can't very well kick Troutdale Vision out.
Yeah.
And I think we have 5 hair salons in the downtown area. What?
There's more.
There's more.
Yeah, that's
You know,
not fine.
and exactly.
And
So-
they're busy.
well, no, that's great, but I think what you're calling into question is to try to make it something more, it's a destination, something more like, let's say, Northwest 24th Avenue, where it's, bookstores and it's a destination. And I would say that in this Halsey project, we have the opportunity, I guess, to kind of look at what's on the west side of 257th, because you've got, empty lot, and on both north and south, I think there's a farmer's insurance agent, but next to that, it's, I don't know what, until you get to the church. So maybe so that expansion of destination, rather than booting out existing businesses.
Yeah, you never want to boot out existing.
Right. But maybe we can extend that look and feel of Troutdale to where there is vacant places. Anyway,
That's enough out of me. Thank you.
Well, like they said, welcome. One thing we brought up last time was around the parking downtown too, where they had changed the parking signs. And just looking at how long people are able to like spend time here. I know a lot of people that have issues like with, if they wanna like have a meal, they wanna walk around and spend more time, just looking at how long you can park there with businesses as well is something I think that's come up quite a few times recently.
And all I have to add is, again, welcome, guys. We're so happy to have you here and playing this role. We couldn't do it without you. We appreciate you very much. And as far as I know, I think we're done. Do we want to, I think generally here we would be asking the question of hold or cancel next month's meeting. Do we have any reason to cancel next month's meeting? I think holding the meeting is fine, yeah. We have agenda items, so,
At least one.
okay.
Maybe one other agenda, I apologize.
No worries.
But again, I'm not thoroughly familiar with going through the planning section of the Troutdale website. You can show us where to find things? Sure. Cool. We got at least a couple people like just smarter than me, bring our got figured out.
All right. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
And a second?
I second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Have a lovely month, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sandy.
Good night.
Thanks.